Hey, what's going on, guys? Cookies here. This is a Sanguine Depths 14 that I did. This was like kind of a pug. It was a new group that I have been doing keys with, and this was I think our second key that we did. The first one was a 12 Necrotic Wake, and then we did some 15s and 16s on my main character. But I think this one's worth looking at. For one, it's on my priest, and I know people tend to struggle a little bit with Discipline Priest healing in dungeons. And then lastly, it's tyrannical on Sanguine Depths, which is considerably one of the harder dungeons for Mythic Plus. So I wanted to talk about what I did and all that stuff. So the first thing is I don't show my talents here, so I apologize for that. This is my gear setup. Nothing too fancy here. And then for the talents, we are running Twist of Fate with just the default build besides that. So we have Twist of Fate, we have Powered Solace, we have Sins of the Many, and we have Lenience. So we will go ahead and just kind of skip through some things and check things out. Nothing too fancy on this first pull, or just pull everything into the lantern. I'm going to try to go to like some of the pulls that I would consider more difficult and talk about them. But really the core concept with this priest I think that a lot of people miss out on in dungeons is Shadow Mend is not necessarily a good heal to use. It's something that you want to use in conjunction with other things. So a lot of the time you'll notice that I won't just spam Shadow Mend, I'll do a combination of abilities. So I'll do like a Shadow Mend plus a Power Word Shield right after. And that's usually enough healing to do, the pickup that I need on the tank or on a single player. Or I'll do things like I'll Shadow Mend and then Penance on the player. Like, you always want to try to mix it up and try to use other spells, not just spam Shadow Mend, because it's really, really inefficient and it's just not good. Here we are using the Transmorpher Beacon because that's important. We'll go ahead and move this way. So this pack, this isn't too crazy of a pack, but there is something worth mentioning, is that these spiders aren't interruptible until that first one dies with Inspiring. Luckily we kill them both, but a lot of the time in pickup groups you're going to have these not die fast enough and get a bunch of Engorge cast off, so that when they die, they're going to they're going to do like a group-wide damage hit when they die. So you just want to kind of have the group topped off and be sure to like save a Radiance for that. And here I am not Kyrian. Kyrian is the better choice for M+, but because I raid on this character typically, I am Venthyr. But Venthyr's a fine option, honestly. It's not that bad. And see, like even here, we're not spamming Shadow Mend, even though the tank's half HP. So we're gonna put another Shadow Mend on him. We're gonna Penance him. And then we're going to go back to doing damage smite. We're Shadow Mending someone else. We're going to Radiance to top off the group. And then we just go back into damage. Like we're not just sitting here spamming Shadow Mend on the Hunter or the Demon Hunter. We're just picking them up naturally with our class utility. I think Prideful is one of the best demonstrations of like what you should be doing on Disc Priest, because I think just spamming Shadow Mend is a really big trap, and that's why a lot of people struggle, is because they do that. You should really just be utilizing Radiance a lot. Like, Radiance is going to be your biggest tool for, one, spreading atonement to your entire group instantly, and two, doing healing. It's the easiest way. If multiple people are injured, you just Radiance and then do damage, and they're all full health again. And what we're watching out for on this boss as you get into higher keys is, for one, the Juggernaut Rush will do a lot of damage. There we were super uncoordinated and messed that up almost. And then, so you're coordinating your healing for the Rush. The Hungering Drain will do a little bit of damage as well. And then lastly we have the Severing Smash here. And this is where you want the group really topped off. You want atonements out, you want... Oh man. You want Powered Shields out, you can use Rapture, you can use Radiance right after. And the reason that you need to make sure that the group's topped off really well and that you're keeping them healed is because there's usually a Hungering Drain shortly after the smash, and if you don't have all the orbs soaked by then, you're gonna get this really nasty overlap of Hungering Drain with soaking orbs. But it also depends on just the boss timing. Some of them don't overlap as badly like that one. And here we have a drain right into a smash. We're gonna soak a couple orbs. We don't have Radiance, which is unfortunate. We used it right before. But we have Mind Games, we use Penance, we use all of our DPS abilities, and it keeps the group up. And then here we have that drain that shortly follows after. We get in for the rush. And this is where we start falling behind a little bit, but this is where it's a simple case of we probably should have used Barrier by now, so we should use like Barrier on that charge. But again, we just Radiance and just do our DPS rotation, and the whole group is just back to full HP. Like we're not sitting here worrying about single target healing or focus healing people. We're just playing our Discipline Priest the way that it's intended, which is flying its elements and then dealing damage to heal the group. This is another pretty nasty pack because it can't be interrupted with Inspiring. So what I'm doing is just watching for the debuffs, and as soon as someone gets 2 debuffs, I'm just going to Mass Dispel. And you can see that I get 2 debuffs, so the tank gets 1, and it's these rack soul casts that are going out. They'll just target random players and put a dispellable dot on them, and it stacks. And then here I get 2 stacks, I Mass Dispel, and then I'm healing myself back up. We're going to throw down a Barrier, just to be safe. This is where I'm Shadowman spamming just a little bit, and then we Radiance to finish off the group, and then now we're just going into that DPS rotation. We're not, we're not spamming Shadowman on the rogue or myself to keep myself up. We're just doing it once or twice to kind of pick ourselves up, and then we're going back into Radiance plus doing damage. We'll go ahead and skip to the second boss because I know that's a big one for a lot of people. We'll go ahead and look at this Prideful too, just in case. And Pridefuls is where you really want to utilize both charges of Radiance, and you use one for like the first half or kind of the 80 to 60% range, and then you save the second Radiance for right here around like the 30 to 25% mark, because that's when you're going to need to do the most healing. Alright, so with this boss, we're just going to Radiance to top off the group, Power Infusion our DPS, get a little bit away with the Castigate. Typically I find that the best strategy with Castigate is just stand still if you have it and let other people move out. And same thing goes for if other people have it, they should just be standing still and everyone else should be moving out. So, the thing with this boss as a healer is there's going to be 2 major things to heal. There's going to be Castigate, which is a single target ability on a random player, and we just need a single target heal them. Usually 1 Shadowman plus like a Penance, or 2 Shadowmans, or like a Shadowman and a Power Word Shield is plenty. And then the other thing that's very important to heal that a lot of people don't seem to realize is these adds that spawn. This Fleeting Manifestation that just spawned. The longer it's alive, the more it will continue to do this like pulsing AoE damage to the entire group. So it is incredibly important to use our Radiance charges here, and to also make sure that the ad's dying. Now as a Disc Priest, you could target the ad and help kill it, but I actually find it easier and more efficient to just stay targeted on the boss, and your dot will just naturally transfer to the ad with Penance. But the problem with targeting the ad is you'll fall behind because, for one, you have to target swap. Like here, you see me targeting the ad. But I think it's actually better to not target the ad because, for one, you have to target swap. 2, once the ad dies, you now have to target swap back, and the ad will usually die very, very quickly. So now you have to swap back to the boss, and then, if there's overlapping Castigates or the ad didn't die fast enough, you're going to just have this situation where you might fall behind on healing because of it. So just be aware of it. You can help kill the ad like you see me doing, but it's just be aware of the whole like target swapping mechanic, and if that's if that's going to hinder your healing, then it's probably not worth doing, because all you need to do is keep your group alive. The ad's going to die. You switching to it is not going to kill it that much faster as a Disc Priest. Like, you really don't do that much damage to it. Okay, we'll go ahead and skip to the next boss because I already have this video running a little long. Next boss is definitely a very hard one. It scales like really intensely with Tyrannical. Use these Rack Pains again, and again we're just using Master Spell to get rid of some of them. Go ahead and pull the Oppressor with the boss. So the two major mechanics for, excuse me, I have to clear my throat. Okay, sorry, I just woke up, so I'm still coming to my senses. So the two major mechanics for this fight is going to be, let me rewind this just real quick. We have the Iron Spikes that go out, which is just a really heavy hitting, like multiple hits on the tank here, you can see. And then we have, which should be followed up by either the tank needs to use a personal for it every single time, or you need to use an external on them. So this is where you'd utilize like Pain Sup and whatnot is on Iron Spikes. And then we have Rite of Suppression, which is, it's going to put all these little orbs out. Each player needs to pick up pretty much at least 3 orbs. You can get away with a little bit less, but it's a little spooky. So every player should be grabbing 3 orbs. And the best way to do this is, what you actually do is if you have somebody who has immunities in your group, so you know we have a rogue with cloak, we have a hunter with turtle, they can just call out like, hey, I'm gonna cloak this one, and then everyone can pick up an extra orb because now that player doesn't need orbs since they can just immune it. I think this first one we don't end up using immunities on. And really what you're trying to do here, so the important thing with this ability in order to heal it is you need to have the group, for one, topped off. You need to make sure that the Iron Spikes was healed through properly. And then as a priest, or as, you know, it doesn't matter what class you're playing, you want to utilize like mobility and movement. And what you're gonna want to do is, you can see here that I use Rapture and I start shielding everyone, and then I pop a Radiance. Once I pick up my orbs, so like as I'm running around picking up my orbs, I'm utilizing Power Word Shield, and then as soon as I'm done picking up my orbs, I Power Word Radiance and then hit the group with some like DPS abilities just to keep them topped off from the initial burst of damage. Because after the initial burst of damage, your group is going to continue to take just ticking damage, like unavoidable ticking damage, while you have to dodge all those swirlies on the floor. So I'll fast forward it again, and you can see, so she casts a spell. We're going to use, here we don't use Power Word Shield because I'm running out of mana, so I'm just being careful, and we're all full HP. So I Power Word Radiance, I'm healing the group up, I'm going to go ahead and Shadowman him just to kind of get him even. And then you can see that now we have to start dodging things, and we're very lucky to be able to sit here and be casting. That's usually not the case. You have to be prepared to not be able to cast anything at all besides stuff you can instant cast. So that's just the thing you have to keep in mind. And this fight I started out with like 60% mana. I didn't know we weren't going to get prideful into it, so it was a little awkward. And then we have the next one here. This is where we're turtling, so I could grab 5 orbs just to be immune. Radiance. And then we're just doing our DPS rotation. Again, we're not spamming Shadow Mend. And then this is where we can use like a few Power Word Shields while running around just to keep those players up. Use a couple quick Shadow Mends, which here really I should just be using Radiance right away like this. And unfortunately the Radiance doesn't hit the most important player that it should have, which is the Hunter, so I just throw out a Shadow Mend. And then we're gonna hit one more time. And we're pretty much completely out of mana, so I just let them know, like, we either kill the boss now or I'm done, so. We played that fight really, really poorly. Again, it was just a mix of like mana management and me starting out the fight with not enough mana. So that was just on me. And this hallway is another spot where a lot of people seem to struggle. A lot of this is up to like your tanks and DPS because it's really just going to be dependent on how fast you kill stuff. But we'll see if there's anything like as a healer that we can necessarily do to help. I'd say the biggest thing that helps in the hallway, I guess, as a healer is definitely DPS. And the major mechanic, if you're in any kind of like pre-made group and not pugging, but still to be aware of even if you're pugging, is here I think at the beginning they aren't aware of it, so I have to let them know, like once it starts happening. So General Call occasionally will like sweep like that. She'll teleport to a random player, if you saw it there, and she will apply a bleed debuff to everyone around the player and the player if she struck anybody else. So the whole point of it is that you want to avoid applying any bleeds to anyone. And the way you do that is if you have like multiple melee DPS, like here we have 2 melee DPS and then the tank. So what you do is before she's about to use that ability, which I don't know the exact timing on it, it's about 10-15 seconds between each cast that she does. You want to have all your melee DPS in your tank. They just need to stand at max melee range while hitting the boss, and then just stand on opposite ends of the boss. So, you know, they stand in like a triangle formation if there's 3 of them essentially around the boss. So I think I actually have, I'm gonna go ahead and do this. We can make this a little more fancy in a second. Okay, so we would have, for instance, like the boss is here. We'll just say like the red line is the boss, and then we would just have a DPS stand like up here, and then we'd have a DPS stand down here, and then we'd have the tank stand, you know, over here. And that's the whole idea, because then if she, you know, dashes and sweeps right here like this, it's not going to hit anyone, so it won't apply a bleed even to that player, because it only applies a bleed to you if it hits another player next to you. So that is how you avoid that, because that is a very painful ability, especially as it starts scaling up. Okay, so I think the rest of the hallway goes pretty poorly from what I remember. It was, I mean, on Necrotic, the hallway is just so insane. It really just depends on how much damage you can deal and how fast you can push the phases and stuff like that to reset your tank stacks. I think also our tank is not Kyrian, so he cannot reset his stacks with the Kyrian potion, so that does not help at all either. From what I remember, he is yeah, he's Night Fae. So we'll go ahead and skip to this last boss and talk about it. And there's a couple things about this boss that you can do. First off, DPS is your biggest friend. Killing this boss faster is going to make this fight a lot easier. This fight's a lot about kind of attrition and how long you can last. So this is the first major mechanic that you can see with this fight. Sorry if I rewind too far, it's just the timeline. So Wicked Rush. When you get Wicked Rush, if you're ranged especially, you can actually stand far away from the boss, and then just right as she dashes at you, you just move. And you usually have to have some kind of movement speed buff, so like there I put a feather down, and then I move, and the boss actually targets your location, not you as a player. So she dashes to where you're standing, so that means if you move as she's dashing, you won't actually get hit by the AoE. And you can see that the hunter feigned his. And then another option is like if you're a demon hunter, you can jump off the edge of the platform and then like glide back onto it or flip back onto it. Or I could like jump off and goblin jump, but that's a little spooky. There you can see my group just dodged both again. They dodged both wicked blades, and that's actually super important to be able to do. Because especially like your stacks do reset every time she does a Gloom Squall, but it just, your mana is going to go out so quick if you're not dodging these. And here again, we tried to dodge that one. Unfortunately, we hit ourselves still, and we hit the monk, so that didn't really help. But we dodged the second one. So this is like your normal, like your typical 2-stack thing. Here we're going to get it again, so we feather and start running. Still not fully aware on the timings, and it just is really hard. But there we actually, I believe we actually dodged that one. Let's see. Yeah, because we didn't get a second stack, so we dodged it. There we go. So being able to dodge this is helpful, but don't stress out about it too much. But it is worth just being aware of. That's the thing about all these kind of like niche mechanics, is it's just good to be aware of these things so that you can take advantage of them when possible. Monk dodged his, Rogue did not. I think Rogue also got hit by a little flashy thingy. A piercing blur. Yeah, that's the whole fight, is just dodging Wicked Rush, and then just we're keeping atonements up on any players who do get hit, so they're like, I'm being really dumb. But we're keeping atonements out on any players like me and the Hunter have 2 bleeds, so I'm just going to make sure that me and him both have atonements and that I'm healing us. And then stacks reset, and then this is typically like where you'd use Radiance, but because I took that big burst of damage, I used a stack. And there's the Radiance, and then we're just keeping the group topped off. Cool, so hopefully just watching some of these boss fights and some of these pulls helped visualize some of the Disc Priest guidelines for playing in Mythic Plus. It's a lot different than playing in Raid, so that's, you know, one thing that I want to help demonstrate to people is like how it can be utilized in Mythic Plus, and how Radiance is definitely your most powerful tool in like all cases. That's going to be like your big application of atonements and the way that you kind of top off the group and whatnot. For anything that's more than single target damage, you use Powered Radiance. So hopefully this video was helpful. I know it ran a really long time, but I'm sure you guys can just skip through to different bosses and stuff like that. So thank you for watching, have a good one, and I'll see you all in the next one.